The lecturer who opens this exciting day is Professor Rui Costa from Polytechnic Faculty of Coimbra. He's involved and leader in many projects including UQ Vegan. The primary focus of his research is the role of alternative proteins in food, seafood, legumes, and insects. Without further ado, I would like to invite Professor Rui Costa to introduce himself so we can kick off this amazing day.
Thank you. First, I want to congratulate the Zagreb, the Students' Association of the University of Zagreb for this excellent event. It's rare to find the students so active, and you made an excellent job inviting so many speakers on these hot topics, and you disseminated in the web widely, so congratulations. I think it's a great event. So as you told, I will speak more about the training needs for the vegan food industry, and I will follow the title, speaking a little bit about the vegan trends that you are aware of, but this justifies also the needs for training, and a little bit on the research, just some highlights, since most of the speakers are really expert on that, and I'm more related to training. So a few notes so this is under the frame, the project that we are developing, IQ Vegan. It's a sector skills alliance from Erasmus project, Erasmus Plus, and we are preparing training for the food industry. We call it for the vegan food industry because this title is easy to understand. It is related to the industry that produces vegan foods, even though if the industries can produce also other products. So a few notes. You already told about my curriculum. Just to invite you to go to the Izeki Food Association website, where we have also many activities related to training and education. Also, my skills are related. My tasks are related to quality assurance of higher education, where I am the president now of the European Alliance for subject-specific and professional accreditation. So I will divide my presentation in 4 parts, speaking a little bit about the driving forces for this vegan trend, then very little about vegan food trends and research and development needs, and such a few notes, and we'll speak mainly about the training needs. So in terms of driving forces for this trend, I will speak about these 4 topics, though they are interrelated, but I want to highlight these 4. First, veganism, then diets, sustainability, and inside of that, climate change. So first, starting with veganism. Veganism, I think it's a big trend, although there are not so many vegans, but they are able to influence by what they consume, but also they are able to influence the others that they share the home with or their friends. So I will use here the definition of veganism by the Vegan Society. That is a philosophy and way of living which seeks to exclude, as far as possible and practical, all forms of exploitation and cruelty of animals. And this reflects, in terms of food, of exclusion completely animals or parts from animals. Of course, this affects the persons themselves that they choose, but as I told you, this also affects their families or a group of friends when they go to have a meal to a restaurant. The restaurant, probably they would try to choose a restaurant with vegan alternatives, and so they affect also what others eat. Of course, this is a kind of diet, vegans, but we know more about vegetarians. We heard much more about vegetarians, but inside vegetarians there are several kinds of vegetarians. Some, mostly they don't eat red meat, but some eat white meat, fish, seafood, dairy, and ovo and eggs. So here there are several groups. And now the most recent group, let's say, are what we call flexitarians, that are mainly omnivorous that want to decrease the meat consumption, although they don't eliminate it completely from their diet, but they want to decrease it. So I will call this in general plant-based diets, diets that are becoming more, some completely plant-based, but others with a lot of a bigger component of plants. So these diets, they are becoming more adopted by the population. I have here just a slide from a survey of 2017 to show a little bit the proportion of who follows which diet. This is from the United States for 4 years ago. We can see that vegans were estimated as 2% of the population, vegetarians twice of that, flexitarians 30 times that, and then the rest omnivorous. Of course, there are different statistics, different countries, and certainly nowadays these numbers are different. But just to highlight that vegans are really a trend, but still the ones that have more effect on the consumption of meat are the biggest group of those that want to decrease the meat consumption, that are the flexitarians. Just a few notes about the meat consumption, because it's important to know that the meat consumption is very related to the GDP per capita. You can see here in this plot that the increasing the GDP increases, there is an increase of meat consumption, but not only that this GDP affects the meat consumption. You can see very big differences for the same GDP, compare, for example, China and Brazil or Iran. And if you look, for example, to the participants in these vegan projects, we have 11 countries. You can see Turkey, for example, each person consumes around 40 kilograms per meat per year, while Croatia, now your case, eats twice of that. So this is quite dependent on other factors, not only on GDP, of course. One compelling argument for consumers to adopt a plant-based diet are the health benefits. So there are many studies that say that overall the plant-based diets, they decrease the body mass index, they decrease the all-cause mortality, the risk of obesity, the cardiovascular diseases, the cardiometabolic diseases, and they also decrease certain kinds of cancer. This is certainly one of the best arguments for people to adopt a plant-based diet and start eating more vegan foods. In terms of sustainability, I want to highlight these 4 points: climate change, of course, water shortage, soil degradation, and destruction of biodiversity. Any of these arguments are also compelling for people to start to adopt a vegan diet, and so to increase the vegan market, and especially when we go to the emissions of CO2, and we see plots like this that already have a few years, and you see the emissions, for example, caused by the world production of beef, much larger, 5 times than the cost by air travel. We really think about reevaluate our decision to eat meat, especially red meat. Of course, we cannot forget that the population is growing, and we need to produce more, so we are going to use more the natural resources, so we need to become more efficient and pollute less per operation, because we see that the population is still growing, and it will grow until 9.7 billion in 2050 and around 11 billion in 2100. Although these estimates are always very difficult to do and have some error, we still can have a lot to do to improve the efficiency of our food system. Now the latest, let's say, more compelling argument to change or to make the consumers be pay more attention to adopt plant-based diets are also the climate change. So the climate change, we are all aware of these problems. We had this recently, the COP26 in Glasgow, where daily news were being made about that and about the negotiations. And there are scientists that say that only the food system alone could prevent this increase of 1.5 to 2 degrees of the overall temperature of the planet. Just the food system. It means that if we adopt plant-based diets, we had a 50% chance of reaching a maximum of 1.5 degrees. But also, if we eat less calories, so less, it means don't eat too much, don't overeat. Or if we increase the yields in agriculture or efficiency, or if you reduce the waste, or if you do a little bit in all of them, or touch all of them by 50%, we could have a 67% chance of reaching just 1.5 degrees of temperature increase. So just the food system can change this, can prevent this temperature increase, but of course we still have other things like the fuel consumption, the coal consumption, that if we reduce them, they will be very effective. But this is also something we must pay attention. We could make all our efforts to do as professionals in the food industry and as consumers to avoid this increase of the global planet temperature. Just a moment. Okay. So in summary, climate change now is a big threat to our planet. Bigger, of course, than COVID. It will affect our life much more than COVID. And biodiversity, it will be even more a disaster. So I think here I just try to summarize the arguments for that lead consumers to this vegan trend or towards plant-based diets, trying to adopt more vegan foods. Just a few notes on these trends. Most of the other speakers would know much more than me and speak much more about it than me. That it was already foreseen that the meat consumption would decrease in 2020. Not sure if it was confirmed because of the increase of the plant-based food market. That some notes about the consumer profile of plant-based products. Those that have a higher income, they are willing to pay more for premium foods that are sustainable, have a clean label, and have a high quality. And of course, the younger consumers are now adopting more these plant-based markets than the older generations. I just show here an example of a trend that is foreseen for 2022. You'll find other. It depends on the company, marketing company. Potato milk, vegan pork, vegan chocolate, vegan eggs, vegan seafood. That is the topic of the next presentation after mine. they are all trends for 2022. But what the consumer now is asking is mainly about plant-based meat and dairy alternatives. And then a little bit on the other spread on the other types of products, from cakes to chocolate spreads and cereal and energy bars. Just to highlight in terms of these trends, a general trend, this is not food specific, that Mintel published. It's about ethics. Ethics is a big issue also in food. So the vegans, they avoid eating food, eating animals derived food due to an ethics issue. But also there are other ethics issues related to food, like deforestation, for example. Some products in some places, the production there leads to deforestation, and some consumers, for example, avoid eating palm oil if it is produced in Malaysia because it causes deforestation in Malaysia, or some consumers are looking for fair trade labels. They want to be sure that the product was produced according to fair trade rules. So in terms of research and development needs, as I told you, the other speakers can do a much better job on this. But just to summarize the four biggest trends, I think three of them at least were approached in this event: the plant-based, the insects, and the mycoprotein and the cultured meat. So in Europe, since now we had approval by EFSA, authorization to eat some insects, of course this will boom, and you can see it in the supermarket, and also you can see by the number of companies that are now investing more. So they were investing slowly in the years before. Even big companies, multinational companies. I know one that was preparing an insect spread to put in yogurts. I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, but it didn't have any authorization to produce it. But now they have, and now I'm certainly not only the small companies, but also the big players will start to be involved in insects. And about the others, the other companies that are presenting this event can speak better about it. What are the problems at the moment of some of these products? It's especially the texture, the flavor, and the meat. So if you look to this study that analyzed some well-known brands, and they fail, let's say, a little bit to imitate the firmness of the meat, or the flavor, the meat-like flavor, or the meat-like taste. So this is something surely the new products will try to improve. So the new products, the new product development needs are delivering the right experience, sensory experience on flavor, texture, and taste, and also to pay attention that consumers want more sustainable ingredients, more nutritional ingredients, and also they want a clean label product. So this is relevant because sometimes you can make a very good product, but if the label contains something like coagulants, and it includes these chemical names, like here also thickeners, they are scared by this kind of labels, so they prefer a clean label like this one, where they can recognize every ingredient. They can relate buckwheat, although it's just buckwheat protein, but they can recognize buckwheat, sunflower oil, etc. So all the ingredients here are recognizable to the consumer, while these ones non-clean labels like this that even contains these e-numbers. Sometimes they are scared, and we can see check misinformation in the web about for example, the e-numbers, saying that chemicals very dangerous to the health. So let's to how this turns in training needs for the vegan food industry. So what happens now is that we have new companies producing new vegan products, and only a few people know how to do it. So they are developing these new products, and if they want to hire someone, there's no one with that knowledge on how to do it. We also have existing companies producing vegan products. Even we can see examples of meat companies that see this trend of vegan products. They are starting to produce meat analogs, and there is no university or trainings available on the technology of new products. Another problem is this is a common product to every industry or every job market. This is a skill mismatch. Some occupations disappear, some professions disappear, and some new ones are needed. And so we have people that don't have the right skills for the jobs that are available. And so we need to train for these jobs. This is not so serious here in the case of the food industry. It's more serious in informatics, for example, where now many engineers are being trained to become programmers. But anyway, part of this skills mismatch also affects the food industry, and so there is a need of training to overcome this skills mismatch. One of the biggest trends nowadays for the job market is the Industry 4.0, and the food industry will become more automatized, more connected to the internet, to be controlled from far, have the sensors that check all the time the quality of the food without human intervention, etc. So we need to prepare also the current professionals that are in the industry, plus the future ones, the students that are in the universities, to become prepared to implement now to make this change towards in the Industry 4.0. In the food industry, this is done mainly with the professionals that are working with the food, and they are, as I put here, around three big occupations: the food operator, the food technician, the food technologist, or the food engineer. These are occupations that are recognized by the International Labour Organization or by the ESCO, the European Skills, Competences, Qualifications and Occupations Database. So we are preparing training for these four levels that are here identified. The food operator, usually it has a vocational secondary education. If you look to the European Qualifications Framework, this is called the level 4. Then we have the level 5, the short cycle is for the food technician. And then we have the university level, bachelor's and master graduates. We are also preparing training for them, so to help universities to upgrade their education offer. So we divide the training needs in 4 blocks: the plant-based processing, green skills, digital and automation skills, and soft skills. Of course, plant-based processing is what is specific of this trend, and green skills also is very related with this trend, but it's also common to all other industries. Digital and automation is related to the need of accelerating the change towards Industry 4.0 and soft skills that are becoming more important each day. In terms of plant-based processing, we will divide the training in 4 blocks. The first block will be a big part of the training, about 2/3 probably. We want to train people on preparing meat analogs, fish analogs, dairy analogs, egg analogs, vegetable drinks, but also non-plant-based, non-plants like mycoprotein and seaweeds. Of course, this is very difficult to do at the moment because there's not much knowledge on this technology. So we have a lot of startups on this technology, but our role as education providers is now to prepare, to train our students for the future. So we have to go and check how this is done and train on our students on how this is done, although there is still a variety of processes, though this is not very systematized at the moment because these are very recent technologies. Then a second block is about the diets. Of course, the food operator, technician, technologists, they need to know about the diets, not because of themselves, but to be aware of what the consumer wants, also to develop new products. We'll have a third block on food safety issues related to these products and some insights on food product development, new trends, the shelf life, estimation of shelf life of new products, and some law. The second module is on green skills, and the green skills, as you could imagine, the topics are energy, waste, and water. We have examples of food byproducts and how to valorize the byproducts, how to manage the waste, concepts of circular economy, green economy, environmental footprints. And while I think overall the institutions already have this included in their degrees about waste management, the concepts about environmental footprints are not so common on food technologies degrees, and we need to alert our graduates and our professionals that now we go in very detail to each food operation, how much it produces in terms of how much is spent in energy, how efficient it is, what is the environmental footprint, in order to enable the professional to choose which is the most feasible in terms of environment feasible operation. So he needs to know a little bit more than what he knows at the moment. The third module is about digitalization and automatization skills, and here we divide in 4 parts. First, the professionals must know how to work with the human-machine interfaces, use different software. So I'm talking also at the level, at the food operator level, so not only the engineers level, and to know how to use the manufacturing enterprise system software. In terms of automation, the professionals must know how to control the machines and processes, how to make the diagnostics of operation faults, also how to design the sensor for specific food processes, specific the vegans. And in the third part, we have robotics. Also, they need to know how to operate the fault diagnostics for robotics, how to identify the various types of robots, select those devices for automatic handling of products, and integrate devices for the automatic handling of products. And as a fourth part, at the moment I think they will be elective, is to have knowledge, acquire knowledge about additive manufacturing, in particular 3D printing, but mainly on correct methods of automated quality controls, such as machine vision, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. So this will be the third block, and this is what is most different compared after the plant-based module, what is most different compared to what is being taught at the universities at the moment. In terms of soft skills, basically, for the food operator and food technician, we are preparing training to develop the skills on problem solving, of active listening. Although active listening, it looks something pretty obvious, it is not. And also team working skills and food ethics. This is essential, as I told you in the last part of the trends. Food ethics is something very relevant now for the consumer nowadays, but mostly in the food area, because you all listen to ethic issues in the food system, problems that we had in the past with the horse meat and so on. There are several examples, unfortunately, and so all these professions, they must know, be aware of all the topics in food ethics, including food defense, food authenticity, food fraud. Additionally, the food technologists must have skills as critical thinking, as teamwork, team building management, leadership, planning and organization, self-management, and self-awareness. The soft skills are now more important nowadays, becoming more important because we are changing jobs all the time, gathering new knowledge. So the knowledge is being, the new technologies are being developed very fast, and we need to always to acquire new knowledge. So these skills that are those that are more constant, they need to be more robust. I want to invite you to take a look to this portal that is also from the Vegan project, where we will make available the trainings. We will indicate in which country, at which levels we'll have the trainings. Also, we'll have a database for internships at companies. So we want to enable students to go abroad and make an internship in a company. Nowadays, it's more easy to move between universities, but at companies to make another step and help students to make internships in companies abroad the country would be very important nowadays. And if you are a stakeholder, also please go and have a look and give your data. You will be informed, and you can have access to these trainings for free for you, for your staff. So I'm not sure if I complied with the time, but I want to thank you for your attention. And here are my emails, and please check the two websites of the project. So I'm happy to answer any of your questions. Thank you.
Rui, thank you for such an insightful and valuable presentation about the driving forces in sustainable production. It has been a pleasure listening to it. Now I believe the audience has some questions for you. So I'd like to start with the first one. How many students do you accept to the training?
So we will provide trainings to food professionals, so persons that are in the industry. Now this will be available. It depends on the country, on the level, and the organization. We suspect that at least in each batch, 20 persons will be can attend. We will also have party online, so we are still developing it, but at least 20 in each session. But we will not have, because we want to have some practical demonstrations. We'll not have trainings at this moment. We'll not have trainings in all the countries of the projects. So we'll not have trainings, for example, in Spain In Croatia, I think we'll have only at levels 6 and 7. We'll not have at the food operator level. So it will depend on the country. But we are trying to gather more stakeholders. If there is a training organization in a country we don't have representatives, we are happy to include them in the project and supply them the materials and help them to set up those trainings.
Okay, thank you. Once students complete the training, will you be offering a new training for them in a few years, considering the required skills are changing so fast?
Yeah, hope so. I'm sure that will be done by some kind of any universities or training organizations. In our case, as a group, this is a project that finishes in the end of 2023. We expect to continue this under the framework of the Zeki Food Association, and certainly we'll keep up with the developments in this plant-based processing, and also the digitalization mainly, and hopefully we will, the institutions that are connected to this alliance will continue to upgrade their trainings.
And the final question, would you classify the food industry as conservative? If so, why aren't universities catching up with the trends?
Yeah, I don't think the food industry is now, well, you know, we eat since we exist, so, and if you compare to millions of years, of course, that didn't change so much. When we see changes at the technology level, smartphone level, of course, they are booming, they change much more, but we eat food for a long time, so the changes are not so much, so fast as in the other fields. And some people don't want notice that many consumers, they want everything natural. So they want to pick up their own food. So they are resistant to very different, to big changes. So I'm not saying, so it's not the food industry that is conservative. I think many consumers are conservative. And it is the consumer that decides what to buy. So we have to keep that in mind. I don't know if I answered your question.
Rui, thank you again for this valuable presentation. I believe you have inspired the attendees to discover new opportunities in the future food industry skills. I sure am inspired and eager to join the future food industry.